Hey everyone. Um, so, in Australia, we have this thing where asylum seekers, for no particular reason, are this big issue. Basically, politicians like to play on xenophobia, and they make, for no apparent reason, a distinction between people that arrive by boat and people that arrive by plane. Of course, the fact is, people who arrive by boat are simply poorer and more visible. So people that arrive by plane, no one really does much about it. So they arrive in Australia and they shred their passports or whatever. But these boat people, at most, we're talking about, a couple of thousand a year, very small numbers. And that's already probably, so it's not really a significant deal. But the government loves to make a big issue about it because people are reasonably xenophobic in Australia, like in a lot of places. At least there's quite a few people. So the people that are not xenophobic, they just don't care either way, and the people that are xenophobic, you can get votes out of them by being harsh on asylum seekers that arrive by boat and calling them queue jumpers and things like that. And there was a great poll where they asked, like, right-wing people voting for the right-wing party, what should be done with asylum seekers, and I think 30% or something said, put them back on leaky boats and just send them back that way. But you might have heard, you might not have heard, a ship just sank. They sink quite a lot. They're badly built ships. People smugglers don't invest a lot of money in their ships. They obviously care just about turning a buck, most of them. And so the ship sank, and it had probably carried around 250 people, and probably around 200 of them drowned, which is obviously terrible. And immediately you get someone from the Australian government, which right now is the Labour government. You get someone come on television and talk about the tragedy and how terrible it is and how he feels for the people and wishes all the best to the people and the relatives and everything. And it's very sad, right? That's what they say. But then, of course, their policies are all towards being as harsh as possible to asylum seekers. So one of their latest efforts, which luckily didn't work because the Supreme, whatever our highest court is, I don't think it's the Supreme Court here, federal court, I guess, intervened and said it's not legal under existing law to do this. But the government wanted to actually start swapping refugees with Malaysia, which is quite illegal under international law if you've signed up to the refugee conventions. You can't start swapping refugees around like they're furniture or something. And they also, we have mandatory detention, so they put them in camps, sometimes for many, many years. And these camps are privately run, most of them, maybe all of them. And there have been numerous instances of very poor care of the refugees, like no schooling, and they just go nuts there. Also, under the last government, and this government has been trying to figure out how to do this again, a lot of the refugees were actually taken and processed outside Australia on some island or something, and they were kept there in a camp, which is very convenient because obviously, like, journalists don't have any access if it's on some island where they're not allowed. But, I know what the rhetoric is going to be from a lot of people after this. It's going to be, we need to punish the asylum seekers, and they're not going to say punish, but they're going to say, we need to put them offshore more. We need to make sure that we don't give any of them citizenship so that we deter the other asylum seekers. Basically, the argument is going to be, we need to treat the asylum seekers that we have as badly as possible to set an example to all those other asylum seekers so they won't get on the boat, so they won't sink, so we'll be saving their lives. Aren't we great? We're such nice people. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots of instances where you might do something harsh because you think it helps people, right? But I guess the wider ranging point, aside from being kind of pissed off that Australia, again, by not providing any better mechanism, is partially at least responsible in my eyes for the drowning of these refugees, is this issue of people that don't really have any real interest in something understanding that, they can't sound that harsh, so they pretend to. Like the people that say, oh, we have to treat asylum seekers terribly, so that we set an example, and it's me being humanitarian. Most of them don't care at all. Like the politicians, they're in it for the votes. A lot of the people that are not politicians that make that argument just don't want asylum seekers in the country. If I heard asylum seeker advocates make that argument, if I heard the people that are in organizations that are actually volunteering to help asylum seekers make that argument, because I know they care about the asylum seekers and their rights and their lives, then I would say, well, okay, this person, they're obviously really genuinely interested in the lives of these asylum seekers. So if they're saying that's the best way to deter them, and that to deter them would actually save their lives, and that maybe possibly making them stay in a war zone would be better for their lives than coming across on these boats, I guess then I have to accept it. But that's not the people. The advocates, I haven't heard a single advocate that has supported any of these plans for treating asylum seekers more harshly, in effect penalizing the ones we have harsher so that the other ones don't get on the boat. I haven't heard anyone make that argument. And, it's quite obvious when you consider that some of the asylum seekers that we sent back, that we actually managed to keep track of, were actually shot and killed when we sent them back to Afghanistan years ago. Not to mention, we're treating these people like they're some kind of dim-witted idiots, like they don't understand the condition in their home country, and they're not aware of any of the risks of spending all their money on a boat journey that they know is on a possibly dangerous boat, and that they already know they have a good chance of being rejected by Australia. Of course they understand this. And of course they're quite desperate to actually go through all this risk, and at every stage risk being ripped off or killed in some terrible way. But that's what gets to me. It's people that they either want to pretend to be empathetic, or that at least they understand that they can't be quite as villainous and callous in their words as their actual policies and their actual mindset is, because then people would, even a lot of people that are kind of on the fence would go, I can't support that person. They obviously care nothing for human life. So they always spin them in this nice way, and they always want to be on the side of humanity and empathy and care, and it's always some argument to the effect of, we know what's best for them. It's all a bit of tough love. We're just giving them a bit of tough love to help them save them from themselves. And I think that's total BS. So to that in general, and you see it in everything. You see it in the treatment of the poor. No, don't give them welfare. Don't give them training. Don't give them hospital cover. They'll just get lazy if you give them these things. What you need to do is be harsh with them. The harsher you are, the more they'll be driven to get jobs. And forget about the fact that you're probably emotionally destroying them, and they'll end up being like homeless wrecks with severe mental illness if they're not severely mentally ill once before they even end up in that situation. Forget all that. No, harshness is always the best solution. When you catch someone for weed, the best solution is to be as harsh as possible. Of course, yes, that's the empathetic solution, because that'll set them to fly straight, right? A little prison stint, a little criminal record, that's all it takes. Sorry, that's getting away from me a little bit there, but yeah, that pisses me off. People that are supposedly so interested in the people they're trying to help, when all they're really trying to do is hide their terrible, callous, nasty, human disregarding, hateful policies under some mantle that is less clearly despicable than what it actually is. Church of SDFU, I'll see you guys all later.